Hey everybody, welcome to the latest installment of the Hot L Poets series, normally held at Bird in Hand in Charles Village. This is the latest in our online incarnation during the pandemic, and we have two fantastic poets reading today. First up is Anna Maria Hong, and then followed by Lesley Wheeler, and we're delighted that they both could be with us. Want to thank my co-hosts, Clare Banks and Stefan Reichert, and of course our sponsors, Bird in Hand and the Ivy Bookshop, and we'll be looking forward to getting back to in-person readings as soon as we can in the new year. So please enjoy, and we'll hear from Stefan a little bit about our first reader.
Hi there, I'm Tracy O'Day, one of the editors of Smartish Pace, and I'm really thrilled to introduce Anna Maria Hong, who will be reading for the Hot L Poetry series. Anna Maria Hong writes poems that you sometimes want to jump into and other times escape from. She engages with rhyme, straight, slant, internal, and everywhere she uses it, it definitely resonates in a way that brings you deeper into the poem. She mixes classical illusion with pop culture, playfulness and sex with sarcasm. She is one of those poets where she writes poems that you read and, as a poet, feel like, God, I wish I'd written that. I'm really excited that she's here with us. She has published in dozens of magazines and journals. She has also published two prize-winning books, H and G and Fablesque, as well as a novella and an anthology of Asian American literature. So anyway, we're really excited to have her read for us. Thanks for listening.
Hi, thanks for coming, and I'm really happy to be reading with Lesley Wheeler tonight, and want to thank Lesley for inviting me to read with her. And I also want to thank Stephen Reichert for inviting me to read in this series as well. So it's fun and a little weird to be here, since I am even more than a regular Zoom meeting. I appear to be talking to nobody. So anyways, I am happy to be here though, even if I can't see you. But anyways, I'm going to read poems from my two poetry collections, and the first one is this book. It's called Age of Glass. It came out 2 years ago from Cleveland State University Poetry Center, and I think all you need to know about it is that all the poems in this collection are sonnets of some kind or another. I use the sonnet as a kind of constraint, so they're experimental sonnets, and yeah, I think that's all you need to know. So I'm going to read just 3 poems from this, starting now. I sing. Out of this world and out of time and out of love and out of mind and out of the pan and out of butter, out of anger and out of mother, out of the cradle and out of pocket, out of space and out of cash and out of change and out of sight and out of range and force of habit and out of oil and out of whack and out of water and Damascus, out of courtesy and out of shock and out of duty and out of turn and out of tune and out of line and out of the ground and out of his gourd and out of all the possible solutions, out of the ashes and conviction. The Platinum Age. Depression was all the rage. We were at the end of a line and did not know it. We rang and sent our hearts out. The fat of the land was separating. The fit got very fit. Obese morbidity was slung in fluent, plural, capitalist suicide songs. Our currency pretty much ripped. Our leaders, also maximalist devourers, indiscriminate, though well-informed. We were still excellent readers. We learned to help ourselves. An abridged spell of fortune was about to be reordered. shuffled like cards in a pre-war era, as we wrote our memoirs in diamond on mirror. Plainest hymn. The Antichrist was pretty good, but the misogynist was superhuman. An A-list antagonist and your quotidian vermin, the kind of beast who makes women split to exist. A nasty condition, really feeling the grist in one's soul, grating like zest on an open cut or a gritty violin. The song comes out thin and testy, in spite of all the protein one ingests. Like a moron, one persists, like a priest or a catechist chanting at a bris. The sermon becomes ingrown. To be honest, it's a total pain. The cruelest twist, protean strength, won't move the Rubicon. Okay, that's enough of that. You can probably hear my dog scratching something in the other room, scratching up the bed. Anyways, the rest of what I'm going to read is from my second collection, and it is called Fablesque. It's this large format book with 10 million post-its on it, and hopefully I can find my place. But anyways, this was just published again by Tupelo Press in September. Really happy to have it out. You can probably tell from the title, Fablesque, that it is a kind of bestiary. So in other words, most of the poems and pieces in here are kinds of animal tales, kind of taking their cue from the real and imagined, well, the lives of real and imagined creatures. Also, the other thing I could tell you about it is that it's a hybrid genre, so that you know, a good number of the pieces read like verse while other ones read like prose. So I will read a little bit of each of those, starting with the most beastly poems. Siren. Cui bono. When they turned me into a bird, they turned me into a woman, my top half full of breasts and throat, the bottom all claw and dirty venom. Partitioned like a nation so that I may sing under the condition. If I could sing without condition, I would give up singing. Goals for a Monday, rip out the knees of the patriarchy, practice histrionic but alluring singing, do laundry. Having a voice demands constant reparation. No one cares if you're half beast if you've got a great rack. Nothing saves a man like the pop of a good braining. Our song was a series of warnings, which they took to be pretty. The ants. I am walking through the corridors of a large corporate hotel, passing groups of Korean American men in business suits. The light filters starkly through high windows and thick curtains. A young Hapa man wearing wire-rimmed glasses stops me, saying, "Professor H, how nice to see you here." I don't recognize him, but I assume he's a colleague or a student. I believe we are all here for a wedding. He moves off with his group. I am surprised to be identified. I am traveling alone. Then I'm in a hotel room, and I am male, I think. The crotch of my unflattering Sansa-belt pants bulge ambiguously, and I am held in place, though I see no binders. I am being eaten by hundreds of ants who tear away at my torso. And as I gaze at my own unfamiliar face through the door frame, my body appears to be suspended against a blue-gray backdrop, light streaming through nondescript windows. The estranged face is unmistakably mine and set squarely against the pain, though I am not bleeding. Like Prometheus, I will recover between eatings. When the ants stop, I myself will feast, devouring banquets of roasted fowl, calabi, mutton. Having my insides consumed makes me very hungry. Soon I know the ants will begin anew, eating out my soft middle as I return to this blue-gray room again and again. English mole. To push and push with raw pink claws like hands of shin. To tunnel my love through wet earth, wet stars. No one needs the underneath like me. To patrol the worm drench of my thinking. To bite a worm's head and cure the rest as cash. Your flesh, my flesh, you're dead as dead, buried like a feeling. To push through that wet, a scrum of worms whittling my skin like a premonition. To have pushed mountains into hills, rag sooth from the slid wall of healing. Nothing, said the suicide, is as sad as recovery. To work myself forward like a noun or an entry. So as I mentioned, most of the poems and pieces in this book have something to do with animals. The poems and pieces in the second section, which I'm about to read from, also consider place and actual places from an Asian American perspective. Bupleurum Wandering Chamber. In the chamber of the wanderers, I was fourth in line, between the vial and the snow and the boot print in the snow. Smart how they placed me in the double-walled chamber. Smart how this wood marks nothing like privacy. Face in the cradle, I awake from a fallow dream. Once was butcher paper waxing aqueous rhythm. Someone sunk a hole where my face should have been. Meanwhile, in the chamber, boot steps shuffle in. Young doctor from Guangdong pulls rods from my back, shuts them in a red can, labeled liberation. His hands, two valves, siphoning my bliss. Once again, I shall drool, empathically supine, in the wandering of the chamber at the stroke of the sign. Okay, one more from this section. The next piece I'm going to read is from a little series of 4 poems that were commissioned for a magazine called Arcade, Architecture and Design in the Northwest. So all the writers who were asked to write for this special issue, which was called Interiors, were asked to write about either interior or architectural features like radiators and lamps and sconces and I don't know, whatever the word is for internal cornices, staircases, things like that, or to write about places in Seattle. So anyways, I'm going to just read one of these, and the other constraint that we were working with was after we were describing whatever we chose to describe, you had to include a note about availability. So as if the thing you were describing was for sale. Stairwell, Panama Hotel. A potted palm at either end as you rise upon the carpet in the dark, up the expectedly brown wooden stairs, brown like anticipation, which is a smell. The well is wide and you walk in the middle to avoid touching the banister because it reminds you of school, bachelor janitors sliding along the metal rail under an old oak tree. Of course, each flight is identical to the one before, rounding each landing to greet an enormous silver bell, its hairy black wires to nowhere, hoping no one will see you. And below that, eye level on the wall, a framed sign reading fire escape in green capital letters, green like a noble gas. The sign itself laminated, tan, stained. Each sign bears an arrow piercing the 2 words, the kind of arrow that gets stuck in a tree. Each arrow pointing always to the right, to the end of the corridor, past the dark brown doors, slit shut like eyes, to the end, which is a pane, large and clean, painted neatly with the words fire escape in green capital letters, not peeling so much as scratched by the cracked finger of an imported Chinese. Who made our canal? This is the Americas, and past the window lies a black iron escape. The final flight smells of lemons. And when you hear a man and a woman talking above, you know she will approach you in a black velvet dress to ask if you are a guest. Imagine being the first to break dirt into ocean. Imagine doing this twice because some president wants to make a place where two oceans meet. You will have to say no. The year is 1903. A note about availability. This is an isthmus and you've forgotten your hat. Okay. So just a few more poems, and I will read a few of the poems from the third and last section of the book. And these poems are also sonnets because the sonnet is my favorite form by far. It's the only one that I really work in, and I just really like it. So I will read a few of these. I'll read the title poem next, Fablesque. Now gather up the elements, sleep and kiss and fat and hair, get me a goose and glass a casket, tump a princeling full of Blair. Here is the fish blown to ocean. Here the little basket of bittering flares. Silver and silver sighs the mirror. Silver, silver, hidey-ho. Under each story lies a fable. Beneath the fable, a shallow row. I put on white to stave the worry. My lips are as red as nuclear snow. Bring me a cup of explicable fury. Divine the whither, if not the when. I toss a coin in the 7-cent fountain. The mirror tells me, wish again. Nude palette. What a muse, what a mess, the state of undress, descending the spiral stair. To look back is to profess, resume the harness, and lose the myth of progress. Save us and tear us apart to finesse this duress, stress by misstep. Give me access or emptiness, the world is my terrace, an embarrassment of purchase, promise. Hello, virtuoso, you had me at emo. I was dead as a dodo, a solo soprano with a face for radio and a case of mono, working pro bono for the echo homo. Show me the jello en masse in toto. Oh no, say yes. Okay, and these are the last four. They're a part of a little series called Astral Sonnets. Thank you again for being here, whoever you are. 1. Geometry and the moon creatures chased a beautiful orange. His round-mounded lips eclipsed all reminiscences of home. Earth, for her part, cast in the appointed lineup, 3 halves whose shadows stream surface like 2 at the end of the world. Wound and wounded to see his wounded side, deep worshipped comb. Geometry and the moon's animal, disjointed, as it was foretold, dipped and then blessed. To gather a creature, mythological, grounded, to hold the undivided, to everlast, to roam. Earth, for her part, casted the anointed, her hour, her lot, with the voice dripped honey. His shadow of soul, or mani, of mani. 2. 13, 13, that may be 39 interpretations, but their relative wholes indicate another black sample. All data malleable in the midst of perfect sources as determined by his spectral dark remnants whose neural shine gives up analysis. Indicative because was drawn along with the normal solar masses, better to have been blitzed by perfect sources. As determined by her dark spectral remnants whose viral ion sank elective, divided spiral, and its neutron. 3. Studded with broad wonders, scopic objects in the sky command the southern. This region, having given birth, projects cluster, deep sky. Minutes to see what else round region holds, the region round the trapezium star. From sparkling, use telescopes, binoculars, and awe, and can easily chew up if you choose the lower left sky as darkness pause. as the passive, the 5 planets, as mesmerizing as it may be, as at least a few bright swirls of gas, and even Sirius, and even the mass. 4. To dodge these deadly molecular clouds, rick these, shedding a small red star into the witnessed. In principle, we might see a perfect ring, the sun's age, countless other open clusters that exceed objects. Indeed, most giant, from far from the galactic, the destruction galaxy at large, A. But the galaxy would need, so inhabit the inner galaxy. However relentlessly giant, 20 or so will be shining still, irregular. If the 2 objects in the outer Milky, if the galaxy is the slightest, chances are a barred spiral, elliptical, chances are A. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, I'm Clare Banks, and I'm thrilled to introduce Lesley Wheeler to the Hot L Poetry series today. Lesley Wheeler is Henry S. Fox Professor of English at Washington and Lee University. Her poetry collections include The State She's In, Radioland, The Receptionist and Other Tales, Heterotopia, and Heathen. Wheeler is poetry editor of Shenandoah, and her poems and essays appear in Poetry, Crazy Horse, Gettysburg Review, and many other journals. She blogs at lesliewheeler.org. Please join me in welcoming Lesley Wheeler. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lesley Wheeler. I am so pleased to be here at the Hot L reading series. I am coming to you on November 7th from Lexington, Virginia. It's a small town in the mountains between the Blue Ridge and the Alleghenies. This is shortly after the election has been called, so I'm in a pretty good mood, and I hope you are too. The book that I'm reading from is a brand new one. It's called The State She's In, just published by Tinderbox Editions. And I've been working on it since 2015 in the run up to the last election. So there are a lot of poems that think about politics, particularly with attention to the politics and history and even the landscape of Virginia, where I've lived for the past 26 years. So I'm going to read some poems that have to do with that, but I'm going to start with the short poem that's first in the book. I think of it as a patriotic song. It's called State Song. Because I call you, wind strips trees of brittle limbs they did not need. The stream bed tilts a muddy ear, and I pour words into its drain. The cup shaped someone's heel dug, filling up as if with rain. Because I call us together, the mountain blushes. A curtain parts, loosens into rags of steam. Sun and clouds pattern fields with roving spotlights. Because I call you, power thrums the ground. Now is the hour, gilded, grand. I call this dazzle ours. This one's called In the Pink, and like a few other of the poems in the book, it's dated because it corresponds to a very particular political moment. This is January 2017, and you'll recognize the march that the poem is making reference to. In the Pink. Independence Avenue is veiled by TV screens. The platform is so far away, it becomes fiction. Mist never lifts from the tip of the obelisk. Who could say why I march, shivering through a city pinked by hats with pointy ears? My right hip throbs. Cold-nosed women throng the streets. One pushes me and I push back, bracing around my panicked child, grasping her hood as the crowd surges against barricades, unable to pour itself down Constitution because that vessel brims with more pinkness, milling, unstill, right up to the ellipse. Cell service blocked, although my phone offers to text pictures to the Secret Service. No toilets, no water unless wrung from the air, nor is any stalled block indivisible. Activists eye each other's signs, veer away. A penis with a comb over. A woman's place is in the resistance, and Carrie Fisher's serious face hoisted by girls in space buns. Trump and Putin making sweet unlove. Countless cartoon uteri lofted into polity. She, she, she. Meanwhile, men orate. This continues to be America. Sometimes I join the chants, disbelieving them. We are not the same. A uterus does not a woman make. Yet my hand knots with my daughters on the way back to the bus until we stop in a sandwich shop. Gender isn't real, my rebel yells as she reclaims the men's room, emptying out her fear, making space for reverie, flamingo as a sunset, cherry as a blossom. Knitting it would be beyond me, but you can write the poem, she said, for my swearing in. I originally grew up in New York and New Jersey, so I moved down to Virginia to take a professorial job. Didn't necessarily expect to stay and had a lot of stereotypes about where I was coming. This poem sort of thinks about that. It's called The South. Once you knew where you were going, from winter's unambiguous branches through flushing eastern redbud toward the shabby linens of the South, bleaching on dogwood racks, toward manly honor and chaste womanhood dusted with gunpowder, shaded from heat by genocidal legacies. Not so fast, youth I was, not so neat. Sure, the glass of tea will sweat where tongues grow cool and slow as minted bourbon. Sure, some white shoppers won't stand in the black cashier's line, allow his wrist's revolution to float their collards or mayonnaise jars over a scanner's bloodshot eye. The hate you'll recognize, thinking you can stand to one side, an innocent cartographer. But malice won't sit where you mapped it, emitting a predictable growl. Stop knowing everything and look around. Hear above your banging pulse an implicated tune, weathered and blue, voice of land pushed up sore, its grudges cold. Those notes twist down piney slopes, fume into creeks by whose banks the copperheads sun like slippery hieroglyphs. They scrawl a tale that had been camouflaged from you even as you sang your lines. Now the story holds you in its lap. Now it's poised to strike. So one of the things that was going on as I wrote these poems is I was thinking about trying to come to terms with where I live, and in particular, the persistence of the lost cause and Confederate reverence around here. I'm in the town where both Robert E. Lee and 3/4 of Stonewall Jackson are buried, and there's a lot of Civil War tourism, and it's a pretty complicated place. But I was also thinking about approaching my 50th birthday, and so there are a bunch of poems in this book that connect to that, and this one's called 50-50. Odds are the ending's beginning now. Your cheating father stumbles into rising seas. History burns, and in the exhalations, ivy ratchets up its poison. A beloved child speeds off on a train, and men mishear your Title IX complaint. Your third cat slinks away like smoke, while chemo ticks into your mother's shrinking veins. Time to divest yourself of puberty's gifts without a thank you card. Checks flutter off, and samples in vials. Higher risk of cancer, lower of ever forgetting. Turns out your heirloom is worry, plus a taste for bitterness. So chance a walk downhill through scattered trees and consider what to give away before you lose it. You're a specialist in suspense, prone to read ahead, yet the plot is running fast. A swarm of futures mate at dusk by the river, and all of them are betting on blood. It's interesting, I've been obviously reading these poems during 2020, because this book was published in this past March, and so many of them make reference to the politics of the moment, that there's been a certain kind of playlist I always wanted to run through, and tonight it feels a little different. This one's called Inside Out. It's dated September 2016, and in case you're interested, it's a sonnet. I just went to this excellent sonnet symposium co-hosted by Johns Hopkins, and so I've been thinking about that form a lot. Inside Out. Shouldn't talk with a mouthful of half-chewed flags, but he smirks and suggests her Secret Service guys disarm and see what happens. The crowd turns wild, and you can spot a star wedged in his molar. Scraps of stripe dangle from a lip. Maybe, he cracks, the Second Amendment people will get wise. While, Russians hack her to bites. Silk between his teeth. Democracy. Facts. Bleeding on the streets, not too good for her, thinks 40+% of my broken country. The liar calls her liar, and the smear sticks. After all, horror's ordinary. The 13-year-old boy just killed for holding a BB gun. And an open-mouthed woman, well, blood's her career. This one's called House Call, and it's different. It's got a sort of dreamy, surreal quality, I think. The black fox kept eluding me, quick among the party shoes, chrysanthemum scent of twilight blowing through lamplit rooms. Its fur was tipped with flame, brushed by crimson characters. Out the door, down the steps, to the mist-damp grass. Gone, gone, under sharp-leaved rhododendrons. What did you bring me, Kitsune? Twigs and dead matter. Come sleep. Where are you now? Under your nails, your skin, flashing through veins. Will I be fortunate? This dream is your luck, this restlessness. You feared warm rain had ceased falling, that the onion moon had rolled beyond night's uneven floor. Try to read spirit, and this ensues, writing shivers, a trick, a tease. Creatures shifting shape can't pause at the mirror to preen. Someone wears 9 tails, something prepares to change by burning all the words. A smoke of fox escapes. I also have a new novel out called Unbecoming. You'll see the fox on the cover, and it's I started to get obsessed with fox some years back. I was given the title at my university of Henry S. Fox Professor, and somehow got the dream life rolling. Yeah, a lot more of that in the novel. All right, this is a poem called L, as in the Roman numeral 50, but a lot of other things too. I gave myself this insane assignment in a book that's filled with riffs on the number 50, again, that upcoming birthday, of trying to think of as many ways to use the number 50 as a formal constraint as I could. There are poems that are 50 syllables and poems that are 50 words and so forth. This poem is 50 lines, and every line is 50 characters long. the smart thing would have been to compose it in Courier or a monospace font where you can kind of see very easily whether the number of characters per line are matching up. I was not smart. I composed it in another font, counted everything, and then went back and proofed it the other way. So, so this is called L, and part of it addresses a mountain that's right over there on the other side of my screen. The window looks out past power lines to a flat-topped mountain that's right now is dark blue with a pink sky behind it. And because I sit here a lot, House Mountain sneaks into my poems a lot. 1967 was on fire. Apollo 1 waiting to launch, Jim Morrison on Ed Sullivan stoking it higher, Mekong Delta, Newark riot hurling out sparks, summer of Osaka to Misaka to Misaka to Misaka. Pulsar first glimpsed, black hole first named, far south, Deception Island's volcano in flames, while an infancy rages. Some recently expired soul was slotted in my pigeonhole. Oppenheimer, Coltrane, Magritte. But I'll know it a reincarnate star, not even a meteor tail, tokeless. Just a minor cloud of space dust reborn to squall anew. 4 decades and change accrue, and a big birthday looms. Half and half, golden jubilee, 5-0, code for pigs closing in, and also atomic number of 10. Mystery heat rises to scald. What is it I'm reaching for over this terrible wall? A relocation, destination, permission for ignition because beauty burns low, potential guttered long ago. I don't know. So I avoid mirrors except the page and work, burn the fuel of myself in words, program words to change the space and time, recall Cobain and Philip Seymour Hoffman dissolve to smoke. Does it even matter how in that year of our newborn hell, Lou Reed crooned heroin into the cradles? Oh, it was a Warhol year, surreal, bananas. From my room, painted like late in the daylily, I can gaze across a blank tin roof pocked by finch claws, past snow-packed sockets of a desolate maple, toward the lavender brow of House Mountain that for this poem let's personify as ambition. The blaze considered discourteous to mention, especially by women. Well, shouldn't I be striving? Talk to me, Mountain. And with a higher perspective than mine, Mountain cries, you are a conflagration. Adrenaline singes your capillaries. Let the anniversary of your ardor to be born cool you like a shadow. Desire leads only to more desire, even were your sororal motives pure, and they are not. Mountain has spoken. It meant cease building with borrowed stones unless to lift somebody else. Message over bottle. Oh, and hey, says Mountain, one more thing. All poems may be ash, but some shelter small, hot hopes, their seeds swallowed in earth's velvet. What strikes me now like flint on tinder is how talking to mountains or to you is the same as talking to myself. Just as impossible and just as hopeful. Either or, both and. Maybe we're all alpine and none of us is. Disconnection, a gift of language we are supposed to hand back. No presents, please. What's yours is mine already. But come in and have a drink on me. Today's everybody's birthday, and I've stopped counting. Well, just about. A little one that is 50 words long, illuminated. Loopy with delight, I practiced cursive not on boys' surnames, but on my favorite letter, symbol for large, language, lesbian, in a ship's log, lightning, 50, elevated, low gear, liberated, love the eye up high, not left loose beneath, last, never least, Thrust tongue against palate and teeth. Now, release. I'm going to close. This has been my favorite poem to close with, and I still feel like doing it. I want to say before I read it that if you feel inspired, if you're able to order this book, it's again called The State She's In. It is from a major distributor, so you can order it anywhere, but you can also order it directly from the website at Tinderbox Editions. So this one has a, oh, and I was going to say too, if you order that book, feel free to message me and I'd be happy to send you a signed bookplate. And my social media tags are at Lesley M. Wheeler. So thanks very much for listening. If you've come this far, I really appreciate it. And at a moment where we're also overloaded by messages beaming across screens. This one is called All-Purpose Spell for Banishment, and it has a participatory element. There are 3 blanks in them, just little blank lines in the poem. I don't know if you can see that. And when I come to them, I will say blank. And for the first 2, what I'd like you to do is think as hard as you can about someone you want to banish. For the 3rd blank, consider something delicious. All-purpose spell for banishment, and thanks again. A pox on blank and the gerrymander he rode in on. Expel, export, exile him while we smudge sage smoke around. At this 0 hour, as our wombs contract under the moon, cast him out, groper, loomer, cheater, rapist, harassing, mogul, bully, frilled narcissus of a boss. Evict without visa, dissolve his assets and social media accounts. Let there be no comb-over strays stranded on sofa backs, no despotic perfume. Erase his name even from rumor, from amygdala. Remove all dimples left in moss by cloven loafer. There is no blank. There never was. As the last syllable of this incantation sounds, it breaks over us how light we feel, like lemon mousse in a silver dish on an early spring morning before the leaves grow in, each cell of foam trapping nothing but sugar and sunshine. On our tongues, only blank. Thank you so much for listening. This was really fun. I appreciate it.